Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another video tutorial. This is Marc Brunet and we are going to be doing ZBrush today. It's been a while since I've done anything ZBrush related and I thought it was time to get back to it. And at the same time I was experimenting with a new technique. Well, not really nothing new, but it's variants of a technique that already exists. And I wanted to see where that what that got me, and it was interesting enough that I wanted to share with you guys. So first of all, what I'm gonna do for this tutorial is I'm not gonna talk for the entire time because it's a little bit long. It's split in two parts really. So the first part is gonna be me trying to come up with something interesting in by sculpting in ZBrush, and then the other part towards the end is going to be rendering whatever result we get and in KeyShot. And so I'll go over sort of the steps that I use to be able to get a decent render, and then from that point we're going to stop, and next time we'll pick it up after the render and bring it in Photoshop and sort of finish it up into proper concept. So knowing that we're going to paint over a fair deal of this entire thing, it doesn't have to be polished. So that's the idea here. We're not doing anything super polished. We're not doing anything final. It's meant to be rough. It's meant to be dirty, and it's meant to be quick. So that's the idea. So to do speed sculpts, there are basically two ways that people use most of the time, and sometimes they'll use a combination of the two. What I'm doing here is a sort of a hybrid between the two. So the two ways I'm talking about, there's the first one that is a lot closer to what would be real sculpting. So you'll start with a sphere, for example, and I did a tutorial on that actually. So if you look back in the channel, a couple of videos past, you'll be able to check it out. But what you do is you start with a like a sphere, a simple shape, and then you add sort of digital clay on top of that. So there are tools that mimic real clay, and you try to stick to those tools, and then while at the same time dynameshing, so that you sort of spread the polygons on your model so that you can create more and more fancy shapes. So yeah, like basic tools plus dynameshing. That is sort of the tool that I used to use most of the time before. And now slowly I'm discovering that well, kit bashing can actually save me a lot of time. So what kit bashing is the other technique that I'm talking about, and that is to use pieces that you already built and bring those into your scene, and as opposed to starting from a sphere, starting from a square, from a box, you start from those shapes that you've previously built. So you bring those in, you chop them up, and then you repurpose them to something else. For example, you have maybe you did I don't know, you modeled the character that had like a helmet or something, and then you bring that helmet in and you use the helmet to create a shoulder pad. So that's a very, very simple and boring example, but that's the idea. So it can be maybe you did an arm for a robot, and then suddenly it becomes a jetpack or whatever, by just chopping it up, duplicating certain pieces of it, and then sort of moving stuff around to create something entirely new. And that's what kit bashing is. And I mean, a lot of people are using it for a reason, because it's really quick and you get a really good result fast, because you're using pieces that you've built previously, so those pieces should look at least decent, right? You spent some time on them already, and by just using those pieces, it's like you're multiplying your time a lot. You don't have to redo all those pieces. So I'm starting to play a lot, playing a lot with that technique, and the technique I'm using now is kind of a hybrid between the two. So there's a lot of I'm not using any kit bashing pieces basically. So, but I'm using kit bashing as a way to create my shapes. What I mean by that is I start with very, very simple shape, like a sphere, like a box, or a cylinder, whatever, and then with using very simple tools like masking and then extruding and that kind of stuff, those kind of tools, I'm able to modify the box or the sphere or whatever it is enough. And what I do then is I chop that part up and then try to create a new piece that way. So instead of bringing something that already exists, I'm sort of creating it as I go. And the reason why this works in this case is because for the end result, I don't need something that is polished. So if I wanted to, if I want a final illustration, and I would probably want to kit bash something that's a little bit more higher quality. But in this case, I'm completely fine just kit bashing as I go, and creating my own piece. So what's cool with this technique is that you stumble upon like piece that you weren't expecting at all would work, and they actually look pretty cool. So what's very important to use if you're going to do this is to have symmetry on. And symmetry, what it does is that when the two pieces like touch a little bit, and then you activate symmetry, and then you try to pull them apart, they'll stay connected in the middle. So you can imagine if you have a complex piece and you sort of you make it interconnect with it, with each other, and then you try to pull them apart, like I'm gonna do in not too long from now. You'll be able to see that. And what happens is that you create new shapes like that, and then what you can do is you can duplicate those shapes, make them interact even more, and split them apart with symmetry on, and then merge them using Dynamesh and that kind of stuff, and then you create fairly complex shapes pretty quickly. So you're not gonna have all the smaller details like the bolts and all the stuff. That would require a lot more time, and I mean, if you're gonna do that, might as well use kit bashing, right? But in this case, since I'm gonna do all of that in Photoshop, I don't care. So all I care about is the big shapes, and this technique is actually really good if you don't have a good idea of what you're gonna do. So in this case, I had no idea what my concept was going to be, so I'm just experimenting with shapes, and I'm hoping that I'm gonna find something that looks cool, and yeah, that's pretty much it. So the tools that I'm using, just to give a little bit of an overview, I'm using masking a lot. So the masking tool is very important. I'm using the slice tool. What that does is that you can just trace a line on your model, and then it chops it in half where the line was traced. So that's really good. Like let's say you merge two pieces, and then you want to chop off the extra that is not that didn't interconnect properly, or let's say you want to have a clean cut somewhere to have a clean edge. You use that tool. Very, very useful. So I'm asking, and also symmetry has to be on for this to work best, and that's pretty much it. I mean, other than that, I'm using obviously like the sculpting tool, like the basic sculpting tools, like H polish and layer mode a little bit here and there, and trim dynamic, but those are pretty much the only tools that I'm using, the only brushes that I'm using, because I don't need any details really. So that's pretty much what I use. As you can see, there's not much, and that's the idea. So if you're starting, you could try this and be pretty successful, I would think. What I so you can see that computer crashed here. So this guy's not gonna have hands, and the feet are not gonna be finished because I lost that part. So it's a bummer, but yeah, didn't feel like doing it again. I'll just do it in Photoshop. So that explains why it doesn't have hands. In case you were wondering, it's not a design choice. Yeah, so the way I'm approaching this design, at least, I want to have a frame with like smaller pieces and that kind of stuff, more intricate pieces, and then I wanted to have, and those pieces, by the way, are supposed to be a little bit more mechanical, not mechanical, I guess more built, more like geometrical, if that is even a word, as opposed to sort of the shell that covers them, like the big blocks that you can see on the knees there, and on the lower part of the leg, and those are going to be a little bit more like sculpted. So for the part of the skeleton, I'm using a lot of like hybrid kit bashing slash sculpting, and for those big pieces, I'm sort of saving them for the end, and those are going to be the one that give the big shape to my mech, basically, because those are like I'm gonna use the move tool to move them around, create like more interesting shapes. So they're not gonna be they're not gonna stay as boxes like that, because that is obviously a little bit boring. So yeah, that's pretty much it. So frame first, and then I keep the the outer shell for later. Yeah, so I'm not gonna have any sort of wire or anything like that. It's all gonna be Photoshop. But yeah, you could probably add that if you wanted to, add a bunch of cables and that kind of stuff. But I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop before that. So I'm gonna stop. I'm gonna stop talking also until this is over, until the sculpt is over. There's a little bit left, and I'll pick it up once I am done and in Keyshot to explain to you guys a little bit more on how to do those nice renders. All right, I'll see you in a bit. Alright guys, well, I hope you enjoyed the sculpt. I will try to do, video in the future where it's a little bit more advanced, where I explain a little bit more of what I'm doing. That's gonna be for another time. So right now, what I'm gonna do is export my model that I saved. I saved it in two pieces, so it's gonna be all the all the shell. So as you can see, this is one object. I saved it as all this grouped as an individual object, and then the other one as everything else basically as the other object, so that I can have sort of two different materials going on. You could import your object and then have Keyshot split all the parts up, but it takes a really long time unless your file is not, unless your file is kind of small basically. So anything out of ZBrush that you've Dynamesh and that kind of stuff, it's gonna be a little bit brutal for Keyshot. So yeah, you have two things that you want to be that you want to pay attention to in here. So you have the Keyshot library, and then you have the the project tweaks on the right here. So the library, you just go in the menus on top of the program. There aren't that many menus, and it's really easy to find. So Keyshot library, and then what you get is a bunch of materials, colors, environments, and then backplates, textures, renderings, and all this stuff. And then on the other side, if you right click on your object and you click edit material, you get this window that comes up on the right, and this allows you to tweak your material further and be able to change the your scene setting a little bit. So what I do here basically is I try a bunch of stuff. So I have my environments, and that's going to be how the object is lit. That's going to be the cube map for my object. And what you do is you just click and drag on your scene, and then the lighting changes, and then you try to find something that you like. And then on the right, you have the little wheel that says rotation, and this by using that you can sort of rotate the environment around to change the direction of the lights. But yeah, so in the environments on the left, the environment section, you have a bunch of different ones, a bunch of different scenes. You can create your own also, but the ones that come with default with the program is really good, and you can most of the time find something that you're gonna be happy with in there. And that's at least for me, that's what Keyshot is. It's just you try a bunch of stuff. You throw a bunch of environments in there. You play around you can play around with the contrast, the brightness of those environments to change them even further. The size of the map, the height of the cube map, and all this stuff. And then you also have a bunch of camera settings here. You can change the focal length. You have depth of field. You have you can also, if you go in settings, you have a bunch of different sort of render things like caustics and global illumination that you can turn on, all this stuff. And what happens is every time you make a change on the scene, so every time you rotate or something, it starts to render around, and it's all real time. And it's really good if you have a really good computer. Otherwise it's a little bit laggy. And this is the more cores you have basically for your CPU, the better this is gonna run, because it runs on CPU mostly, I think. And so I think I have 12 cores, so it's just running decent. I mean, it's like my computer could be a lot better. Yeah, so like I said, I had two different materials that I can use in here. So I have the one for the frame, the one from the outer shell. And what I'm thinking is probably a bright color for the outer shell, and then just metal for the inside. And I'm gonna be doing more subtle variants once I'm in Photoshop later. So I'm gonna break those apart, add dust and dirt and all that stuff, like scratches and different colors if I want to for the different metal parts and decals and all this stuff. So it doesn't have to be perfect here. The same with the color, like the red, I could even change it later. And I'm not gonna settle with red actually. I'm gonna change it to blue towards the end. I'm not sure I recorded that part, but anyways, it's just I'm using blue instead of red as that's the big change. And but yeah, so once you're happy with your scene, how the light reacts, how the materials look like, you just have to sort of pose your character. So you place it in the angle that you want to paint over it, And once you're happy with that, either you just print screen after you let it render for a while, or you can click also in the menus on top and have it render with the size that you want, if you want like a a bigger size, or different settings or whatever. And that is that for Keyshots. So in case you guys were wondering what this mysterious program was, that's all it does. So it creates cool lighting for your scene, for your models. And yep, next time I'm gonna pick it up in Photoshop and I'm gonna finish this guy up. But for now, that's it for me today, guys. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Like I said, it wasn't super in depth, but it gives you an idea at least of my process when I approach something like that. So yeah, hope you guys enjoy, and don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. And I will see you guys next time. Bye bye.